Tonight on To The Point.
The governor is expected to sign the state budget by the end of this week. How much is on the line and what state lawmakers believe is the best steps forward for the state.
Plus, the new state audit blasting Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools following an ABC 10 investigation. New details tonight about the deadly Lake Tahoe boat accident. Who were the people on board? And later, the Central Valley community scrambling over a water crisis.
It's very hard to believe that there isn't an entity that can come forward and help us find a solution.
What happens if they can't find a new water source? Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. And after months of debate tonight, it appears state lawmakers and Governor Newsom have reached a new state budget deal. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is at the Capitol with what's in the $330 billion bill.
There's been a lot of heated discussions here at the state capitol in reference to the budget when it comes to transportation, healthcare, and crime. All of this comes as the state is trying to close a $12 billion deficit.
The full budget is about $330 billion, about $230 billion of which is our general fund. We had a $12 billion deficit to close.
One of the major issues addressed in this budget, Medi-Cal for people without documentation. During the governor's May revise, he had suggested making changes to the program by requiring a $100 premium and freezing new enrollment. But Democratic Senator Scott Wiener says the program has been successful, and Democrats wanted to ensure nobody was left behind.
The governor proposed a $100 monthly premium for undocumented people on Medi-Cal. We reduced that by 70% to $30 a month, and we delayed its implementation by 2 years.
Adding that new enrollment will be paused starting January 1st. Republican Senator Roger Nilo says this is fiscally irresponsible to continue to fund Medi-Cal for people without documentation.
It just seems to be unaffordable, whether we have a surplus of funds or not. And it also seems to attract more undocumented immigrants into our state to receive funding like this that is not available in just about every other state in the union.
Funding for Prop 36, a proposition passed by voters last November, was added to the budget. The legislature agreed to put $110 million into the program.
But they still cut back probation. As I said, that's a problem. And $110 million really isn't enough for all of the efforts that need to be undertaken.
In response, Senator Wiener says it's better than nothing.
Despite having that massive deficit, we still found $110 million to fund Prop 36.
And when it comes to the controversial high-speed rail, the legislature agreed with the governor to provide $1 billion a year to the project for the next 20 years to complete the initial segment. Legislative analysts believe the state will have to tighten spending in years to come to prevent an even bigger deficit.
In out years, they are going to have to take more significant actions, either by increasing revenues or by decreasing spending in some of these major areas.
The legislature is expected to pass the final budget for the governor to sign by Friday as the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. At the Capitol, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
And now to an update to a story we brought to you yesterday on To The Point. A plan to sell millions of acres of public land across the West Coast for use as housing or infrastructure has been ruled out of the Big Beautiful Bill. The Senate parliamentarian determined the proposal would violate the chamber's rules. While the rulings are advisory, they are rarely, if ever, ignored. Lawmakers are using a budget reconciliation process to bypass the Senate filibuster to pass President Donald Trump's tax cut package by his 4th of July deadline. Funding for the Sacramento rail yards could be on pause. The city now says they are now reviewing a number of letters that were submitted today. A local hospitality union, Unite Here, says the letters were submitted by residents in the rail yards area who want the funding to be negotiated again, saying the deal lacks affordable housing. The city says the funding approved so far would go towards things like roads, utilities, and parks that would make way for a future soccer stadium and other development. Councilmember Phil Pluckybaum, who represents the rail yards area, is calling this protest a lose-lose proposition. We have his full statement right now on abc10.com. We are learning new information about a deadly boat accident on Lake Tahoe just over the weekend. We know that 10 people were tossed straight into the water when their boat capsized during some rough weather, and 8 of them have now died. The El Dorado County coroner says the victims include members from a family out of Redwood City, friends from Lincoln and Auburn, and 2 others from New York. Among them was also a 37-year-old DoorDash executive from San Francisco. He leaves behind his wife and their 7-month-old daughter. A family spokesperson tells us the group was on the lake to celebrate a birthday.
This was the first time they were taking it out this year, beginning of summer almost, when tragedy struck.
The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office has not released the names or conditions of the survivors or said whether anyone on board was wearing a life jacket. New tonight, a scathing state audit is out on Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools, requested by 4 state lawmakers after our investigation, the Wild West of Education. And the audit confirms what ABC 10 investigative reporter Andy Judson has been uncovering for years. She is live tonight here in studio. And Andy, I have to ask you, what did the audit exactly reveal?
Yeah, Alex, the state auditor found Highlands improperly took in more than $180 million in public education funds, money that they should have never received. The report confirms ABC 10's findings and details wasteful spending, unlawful hiring, and violations of state law, including gifts of public funds and conflicts of interest. And while money poured in, student performance was so poor that it dragged down the state's overall graduation rate.
More than $180 million. That's how much money Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools received when they shouldn't have, the California State Auditor says, making it one of the largest charter school debacles in the history of California. But to the whistleblowers who came to ABC 10, it's not surprising.
Not at all. Not at all. And although I'm not surprised, I'm still incredibly disappointed.
The audit confirms Highlands wasted public funds and broke the law.
To me, it's just a big duh. Really, that was my reaction, was like, duh.
Thousands wastefully spent on items with no educational value. And it was not just staff benefiting from your tax dollars, their families cashed in too. The audit details contracts handed to relatives, including nearly $400,000 since 2019 to a company owned by a Highlands director's spouse. And multiple contracts over $1 million were done with no board approval, violating the few policies they did have. And with no policies in place against nepotism or favoritism, Highlands hired and promoted unqualified friends and family members.
This is what happens when organizations and or leadership thinks they are untouchable.
And while the money flowed, students struggled. The audit says outcomes at Highlands were so low, they dragged down California's statewide graduation rate for the 2023-2024 school year. So who's responsible? Highlands Oversight Agency, Twin Rivers Unified, took nearly $13 million it cannot justify while doing next to nothing to provide real oversight. Even after a 2018 audit flagged critical issues that needed to be addressed, Twin Rivers renewed Highlands charter anyway and even misled its own board about the school's performance. The audit also holds accountable the California Department of Education, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and Sacramento County's Office of Education, saying these agencies have the authority to provide oversight to charters like Highlands, but have not fully done so.
And I hope that we do create some new legislature or guidelines for oversight.
And with the audit's findings, it's now up to lawmakers and law enforcement to decide what's next. And Highlands says it's launching reforms and has appointed a new executive director, Jonathan Raymond, who is the former superintendent of Sac City Unified. It's worth noting ABC 10 has requested an interview with him. And Twin Rivers Unified responded saying they've worked in good faith with the auditors and they do disagree with some of the findings, but that they've followed the law and are committed to improvement. Alex?
All right, Andy, thank you so much for that update. And the California Department of Education says that they have taken specific actions to hold the school accountable and repeatedly raised concerns with Twin Rivers. So if you do want to watch the entire Wild West of Education investigation, it is on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. It is free to download straight to your TV. Still ahead, a Central Valley community could lose its water supply in just days. Why Diablo Grande faces a tough choice: pay hundreds more a month or risk going dry. Welcome back in. Let's get over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef with a look at your forecast.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice day today. 85 in Sacramento, 89 Stockton, 90 in Modesto, 91 in the Upper Valley. And the reason for that, lower than normal temperature in Sacramento today is because of that wind. In fact, we were 5 degrees cooler than normal in Sacramento, 2 to 4 degrees cooler in the San Joaquin Valley. Again, it was warm, right? 90s are warm for some, but for most of us, it really was at or just below where we'd normally be, and we're already in the 70s in Sacramento, 78 in Sacramento, 83 in Stockton, 86 in Modesto, 81 Jackson, 81 Placerville, 73 Truckee, 70 South Lake Tahoe. There's that wind across the valley, 10 to almost 20 miles an hour, and it is gusting closer to 20 to 30 across much of the valley and Delta at this hour. So that wind's going to continue through the overnight, much like the last 2 nights. It's going to be breezy, and it'll be cool through the overnight. Temperatures tomorrow low to middle 50s, the average low 58, so we're quite a bit cooler than normal through the overnight. Tomorrow, I do expect us to get a bit warmer. I've got us closer to 90, which again is normal for the time of year. 80s and 90s in the foothills, 70s up high, and I'm not really expecting much in the way of showers or thunderstorms tomorrow, but an isolated one can't be ruled out. About 67 Oakland, 63 in San Francisco, 80s to 90 as you work your way inland. Upper 80s and low 90s are expected across the valley for the middle part of this week. It will get warmer as we head in towards the weekend, some upper 90s by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, and lots of 90s continue as we head in towards Independence Day. Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. After the break, a water crisis in the Central Valley. A resort community built on dreams now facing a deadline that could shut off their water supply for good. What happens next? A Central Valley community is facing a dire deadline: either approve a massive water rate hike or have their supply shut off. Diablo Grande, once envisioned as a golf resort paradise, is now at risk of going dry. ABC's Luke Cleary has the story tonight.
A patchwork of green in the Stanislaus County foothills, the resort community of Diablo Grande is now at a crossroads.
The families who bought into life here at Diablo Grande bought into a dream. These hillside views, vineyards, golf courses, all of it built on a simple promise: a steady supply of water.
The sunburned hills surrounding the development offer a warning. This is what happens if the water pumped from the aqueduct stops. And now, the Western Hills Water District is proposing a massive rate hike just to keep the taps open.
We're on a shoestring here, and I can barely keep this district running and keeping clean water to everybody.
President Mark Kovich faced a packed clubhouse in early June to deliver the uncomfortable message: pay more or risk losing your water. The Western Hills Water District supplies Diablo Grande with water from the Kern County Water Agency. In a letter, the Kern County Water Agency warned it will cut off service June 30th. Unless Diablo Grande property owners approve the hike from $145 a month to $569.
Or they say maybe they want a little more, maybe $700, $800. That's what's scaring me.
Scaring all of us.
Okay, then there's no answers though, is what I'm trying to figure out, the frustration.
How do you feel like this is going?
Not well.
Debbie Antigua heads the action committee organizing public meetings.
The residents are very concerned. They don't know whether or not they're going to have water.
The Kern County Water Agency says it's ending its contract with Western Hills because the district owes the agency more than $13 million and hasn't made a payment since 2019. The letter states that if the rate hike passes, Kern will keep the water flowing until December 31st to give Western Hills time to find another supplier.
You keep saying something about it's good until December.
Retired nurse Lydia Stewart is one of many asking hard questions.
We're on Social Security, limited income. What are we supposed to do?
She and her husband James say they put their life savings into a new home here in 2018.
What was that like for you?
A dream, because I've worked so hard. I've taken care of so many people.
But that dream home now hangs in the balance. they won't be able to sustain the higher rate for long on top of the mortgage and other bills.
We only have a certain income. That's why we picked up here, because we could afford just that. We didn't expect this big lump sum to be dumped on us.
We're victims in all of this, right? We've paid our bill.
Katie Whitney and her husband moved to Diablo Grande in 2012 to retire.
The dream was to, move up here, someday retire and, play golf every day.
The rate hike will be uncomfortable. What's unthinkable is losing water altogether.
When you're thinking about retiring and there's a possibility that your home won't be livable, it's a little bit more than your dream slipping away, right? There's a feeling of, how did we get here? How in the world did we get here?
And not on the fault of us. We've paid everything we've had to pay. It was the stuff that happened before we moved here.
What happened before is a long story. This was Diablo Grande in 2016, a world-class golf resort community built to expand. And here it is today. The golf courses closed, the grass dried out, and of the 5,000 homes promised, only a fraction, around 600, were ever built.
You bought this place in 2011. What was it like?
2011. It was awesome. Everything was green.
Doug Moore bought a home overlooking the 13th hole.
This is what it looked like when we moved in. It was a dream location for us.
He spent years trying to help other homeowners understand how it came to this.
The first instinct they had when they see a rate increase that's triple what they were paying, is one of anger, and it hit them by surprise. I wasn't surprised. I've been following this for years.
The Western Hills Water District blames the former developers for the millions in unpaid water bills to Kern County Water Agency. Initially, the developers subsidized the cost of water to boost growth. But when the housing project stalled and the developers effectively went out of business, the payments stopped and the debts piled up.
I worry about it every day. Keeps me up at night.
With time running out, the new board now scrambling for a new water source for Diablo Grande, asking state and local leaders for help.
Everybody is just very frustrated that nobody wants to do anything. The answers we get is, you're on your own.
Stanislaus County officials say they can't intervene either.
It is an issue that must be handled here locally with a local district. I know that's a tough answer, that's a tough message.
And Debbie Antigua says her calls to the state have led nowhere.
We've called for the community to, email all these agencies, and they have. And they just, we're forwarding you on to another agency. Okay, which one? Because nobody's coming.
It's a common question here. Is anyone coming to help? We also reached out to the state. The Department of Water Resources and the governor's office say this is a local matter, and the state has no official role in resolving it.
It's very hard to believe that, there isn't an entity that can come forward and help us find a solution, find a way out of this.
Just work with us and find a solution is what we're asking, and they won't even talk to us.
The resort community built on a dream in the rugged California foothills, now fighting to stay afloat. For now, the water is still flowing, but at what cost and for how long? In Diablo Grande, Luke Clary, ABC 10.
The Western Hills Water District is in talks with the Patterson Irrigation District about a potential water supply solution, but a new pipeline could be years away. The rate hike decision comes on Saturday, so I think it goes out saying we are going to continue following this story. And before we go, the NBA draft is airing tomorrow on ABC 10, so we'll see you back here on Thursday. Have a great night. As always, thank you so much for joining us.